Hi, and welcome back to this Monday edition of Focal Point AFR Talk. Jeff, let's grab audio bite 13. Just want to start off on a high note. This is Hunter Pence at the plate for the San Francisco Giants in their weekend series. Let's take a listen.
Throws it again, and he hits it high. He hits it deep. It is out of here.
All right, Hunter Pence for the San Francisco Giants. Now, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, it is all downhill from here. Now, it's interesting that one of the sound bites that we wanted to play today was an interview that Susan Rice had with Candy Crowley on CNN. And that video clip has been taken down from virtually every website where it's available. We couldn't even download it from the CNN website. They have found some way to disable that interview even on CNN's own website. And I believe it's because it is so damaging to the Obama administration, so damaging to the narrative that they're trying to create for this Bo Bergdahl prisoner swap, that they've tried to disable this thing everywhere they possibly can. I just want to go through the exchange with you. Then I want to get back to some of the details here because it's very, very important that we understand the absolute truth about what happened. One of the reasons that you listen to Focal Point is we are going to give you the truth. We're going to tell you the truth. We're going to do the research. We're going to verify it. We're not going to bring you anything that we can't substantiate. It's very, very important that you know the truth about what's happened here. Now, what has happened here, bottom line, as we'll see in just a moment, this guy is not a war hero. He was a deserter. He went AWOL from his camp. 6 American soldiers died trying to find him. This man's actions, irresponsible and treasonous, cost the lives of American soldiers. And he was swapped out for 5 top Taliban commanders. This is the dream team of the Taliban. These are the people, these are the guys that are why we went into Afghanistan in the first place. We went into Afghanistan because of these guys. These are the guys that we went into Afghanistan in 2001 to neutralize because they were part of the supportive network of al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. Some of these guys knew bin Laden, worked with him, but they were the reason that we went into Afghanistan in the first place. This is the dream team of the Taliban, and they have been released. They'll be back on the battlefield, trust me, before too long, in exchange for a deserter who ought to face a court-martial for possible treason for what he did. We'll talk about that. But here is the interview with Candy Crowley and Susan Rice. Now, remember, there is a law that says that Congress has to be notified 30 days before a prison swap. In fact, before we play, Jeff, grab soundbite number 14, A14. This is Jonathan Turley, who's with George Mason University, legal scholar, constitutional expert, or maybe it's George Washington University. Anyway, Jonathan Turley, hardcore leftist, big-time lefty, and he is commenting here on this 30-day period where a prisoner swap like this is illegal unless Congress has 30 days of advance notice and unless Congress has provided assurance in detail as to why the prisoners that are being released will not pose a subsequent threat to American interests. None of that happened. No 30 days worth of notice, no explanation of why we don't have to fear these guys returning to the battlefield. Remember, the recidivism rate from people that have been released from Guantanamo Bay is running like 25 to 30%. Now, this is the dream team of the Taliban. I mean, the chances of these guys going back on the battlefield, very, very high. They're going to be released to Qatar, which is a Muslim country. We've got some vague promise that they're not going to be allowed to travel for a year. I mean, and we have absolutely no reason to believe a single thing that the Qataris would tell us. They're just in big trouble right now. The same Qatar, same nation, in big trouble for rigging soccer games, major soccer games, so they can make a killing off of the betting. And it's cast a pall over the World Cup, which is getting about ready to start. Same people. These are bad actors. Can't be trusted. Now, clip A14, here is Jonathan Turley talking to CNN about this 30-day notification period that's required by law. So the CNN anchor asked Jonathan Turley a question. Listen to his response.
They did. I don't think that the White House is seriously arguing that they're not violating federal law. And to make matters worse, this is a long series of violations of federal law that the president's been accused of. I just testified twice in Congress about this record of the president in suspending or ignoring federal laws, and this is going to add to that pile. I don't think there's much debate that they're in violation of the law. What's fascinating, Carol, is that when this law went to the president, he used a signing statement, which, if you recall, as a senator, he opposed and ran against for president. But he actually used one in this circumstance and said, I'm going to sign this, but I actually think that that notice requirement is unconstitutional. And he's essentially arguing the very same principle of George Bush, that when it comes to Gitmo, he has almost absolute power, that it is his prerogative, his inherent authority to be able to make these decisions as he sees fit.
So this is Jonathan Turley talking to Carol Costello, the card-carrying member of the gay Gestapo. And Jonathan Turley says, look, there isn't much debate that they're in violation of the law. And Jonathan Turley says, look, I've testified twice before Congress about this growing list of President Obama's defiance of federal law. This is a long series of violations of federal law this president has been accused of. The record of this president in suspending or ignoring federal laws, this is going to add to that pile. That's the metaphor that he uses. There is a pile of these, and this guy's a leftist now. Don't forget this. This guy's a winger left. And he says there is a pile. If you were to take all these instances where the president has ignored, defied, disobeyed federal law, you would have a pile on your hands, and this is going to make that pile even much deeper. There's no debate. There's no question about this. Anybody looking at this can see that they are in violation of the law. And he says President Obama warned us, look, I don't think this law is worth the paper that it's written on. I'm going to ignore it if I see fit. Now, Chuck Hagel, this is soundbite 15, Jeff, if we can grab the next one. Chuck Hagel, Secretary of Defense, and he's being asked here about this question about this 30-day notification period. And it's just absolutely bizarre here where he admits, yeah, that's the law, and then hear what he has to say. So he's asked about this. Don't you have a responsibility to notify Congress 30 days before this happens? You didn't talk to anybody until after the deal had already been made. Here's what he said.
As to notification of Congress, yes, there is a 30-day notification. I notified the appropriate committee leadership, different committee leadership yesterday. That's part of the responsibility I have as a Secretary of Defense. And we did this under the timeline we did for the very reason that I explained when you asked me the first question. This was essentially, in our opinion, to save the life of Sergeant Bergdahl. As I said before, we had information that his health could be deteriorating rapidly. There was a question about his safety. We found an opportunity. We took that opportunity. I'll stand by that decision. I signed off on the decision. The president made the ultimate decision.
That's Chuck Hagel saying, look, yeah, there's a 30-day notification period. In fact, I notified the appropriate committee leadership yesterday. Well, Chuck, that's not 30 days. That's the day after the deal had been made. So he blatantly admits, yeah, there's a 30-day notification. We completely ignored it. The president signed off on this. I agreed. But this ultimately was the president's decision. Now, and they're using this healthcare emergency, this exigency that we were concerned about his health. It was deteriorating. We had to get him out of there just immediately, so we had to ignore the law, disobey the law, flagrantly disregard the law. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this guy has been in the custody of the Taliban for 5 years. Another 30 days is not going to make a difference. And I'll tell you frankly what this is all about. This is about President Obama trying to get the attention off the VA scandal. That's what this is about. This is a purely political move. Why does this happen now, all of a sudden, in this big, giant rush where they've got to get everything done virtually instantaneously? It's because that VA scandal is completely blowing up in their faces. And remember, the big problem with the VA scandal is it shows the utter bankruptcy of trying to have government run health care. I mean, it exposes the fraud that is Obamacare, because the VA, this is supposed to be utopia for the liberals. This is government-run single-payer health care. This is utopia. This is what Nancy Pelosi says. This is what we should have done in the first place. Our problem was we didn't go right to single-payer. If I had to do over again, we'd do single-payer. If we fix Obamacare, we got to fix it by going to single-payer. This is nirvana for them. This is utopia. This is Valhalla for the liberals when it comes to health care, government-run single-payer. And it's a complete and utter and total disaster. People getting paid bonuses in hospitals where veterans were dying. He has got to get the attention off of the VA before this thing completely derails everything. And so this was the tactic that they decided to deploy. And President Obama's out there making himself out to be a hero. We never leave a fallen soldier behind. Well, you know, the question I've got, if we never leave a soldier behind, how about trading, President Obama, how about trading 5 criminal illegal aliens for 1 Marine rotting in a Mexican jail? How about that? How about that kind of swap? I'd be down with that kind of prisoner swap. Let them have their criminal illegal aliens back, and we'll get our Marine back. How about that? If we never leave a man behind, how about looking across the border at that Marine in a Mexican, rotting in a Mexican prison? And you also think about the lack of concern the president showed for the 4 dead Americans in Benghazi. What about not leaving them behind? How come there was no deployment of any kind of military resources or assets to try to help them? So this clearly is obviously just a purely political stunt on the part of the president, just trying to distract, I believe, from the VA scandal. Now, let me run through just a little bit of this Candy Crowley-Susan Rice interview, since we're not going to be able to play it for you. Candy Crowley says to Susan Rice, remember, she's the one that went out and lied on all 5 talk shows after the Benghazi deal. Why didn't you notify Congress? For that very reason, Candy. First of all, this opportunity, and Crowley reminds her, look, under the law, it says you should notify Congress. This opportunity is one that has been briefed to Congress when we had past potential to have this kind of arrangement. So it wasn't unknown to Congress. The Department of Defense consulted with the Department of Justice. And given the acute urgency of the health condition of Sergeant Bergdahl, and given the president's constitutional responsibilities, it was determined that it was necessary and appropriate not to adhere to the 30-day notification requirement. We had no obligation but to break the law. Focal Point in AFR Talk.
This is Dr. Richard Land, president of Southern Evangelical